Okay, last time we drew our simple flamingo, and now we're going to do a little bit of shading. And so I'm using an ebony pencil, which is just a little bit darker and it'll make it easier to see. A lot of times I'll use, there's all different kinds. You can just use a regular #2 pencil, which a lot of times is a HB2 pencil. Or there's a whole variety of different pencils for shading. And the ebony is the darkest one. I don't usually use the ebony unless I'm going to do something that I want to be really dark, but I'm doing it for this so it's easier to see. So what I'm doing for my shading is I'm doing my lines are following the same direction as the neck. So, and I'm just going to make it kind of darker on the outside and lighter towards the center. And that's just a trick to make it look three-dimensional. And I'll do that. It varies depending on the light source, but that is just sort of a trick. Now I'm also, so I did some lines in the S shape, and now I'm doing some of my hatches as sort of like check marks. They're kind of coming around like that. And that's to try to make the neck look more like a cylinder. So it's coming around like that. So now this, I'm going to make the outside on this side a little bit darker. And the neck's a little bit darker here. Where it connects, there's a little bit of a shadow from his body coming around there. I'm just going to try to go, and I'm doing my lines in the same direction as the neck. So I'm making my lines sort of S shape, and what I want them to be is a little bit darker on the outside and then get lighter towards the center. And I'm going to try to work the whole page, so I don't want to go too far in any one area. Because you want things to look good in relationship to the whole and not get too focused on one single area. So this, I'm just kind of going back over these and doing a little bit of shading kind of underneath. By shading but kind of behind each feather, I'm trying to make it look like my feathers are stacked on top of each other. So these feathers are underneath those feathers. And what I might do sometimes is use an ebony for the darkest parts and then go back with a lighter pencil to give some sort of fine details. Like on top of the feather, that would look pretty. To have it look a little cleaner on the very tops. And not have everything with an equal amount of darkness. So, like this. See, the ebony kind of has a fuzzy finish, which looks good depending on what you're doing. If I was doing a blanket, it would be great. But my bird, I don't want it to look too fuzzy. So I'm going to do some of these clean lines on top of it. Now on this side, I'm just kind of curving in. And now here in the middle, I'm going to make it sort of a U shape. So I'm just trying to get the shape of the neck to look a little like a cylinder or a tube. I'll come around here, his face. And I went back and made this part a little more pointy. I thought that looked better. And all of your hatches don't have to be perfectly smooth. You can have your lines show because you're the artist. You're not trying to make it into a photograph. You want your lines to show. They're important. And now the beak gets actually sort of black towards the end, and then it just sort of fades up. So I'm going to do that there. More on the bottom than the top. So I'm not making the line go all the way up to the eye. I'm going to stop right there. So I made this beak come a little more angular, and then come straight here, and then it curves down. Now I've made a little line here for the nostril, and I think I'm going to go back over the eye a little more. I think I'm going to shade this part. If the area around the eye is a little bit darker, then it will make the eye highlight look lighter by comparison, and that might make him look really intense and cool. You can use your eraser as a little bit of a smudger. I try not to smudge too much with my fingers. Your fingers can get your paper very greasy, and it'll turn kind of yellow over time. So I try not to smudge with my fingers, but it is very tempting. Make his head darker than the beak on this part. Go around the eye even darker, darker, darker. And then over here, the beak is darker than the head. Going back and forth a little bit. Lighten that up. I might have gone too far. Now I'm going to come over here. And I normally start at the darkest part. And then if you do that, then you can lighten up from there. And it's kind of the easiest. It's the easiest to make the dark parts. If you do the easy part first, then you'll get comfortable. When you do the harder parts and the lighter parts. I'm going to do this around that kneecap, the leg coming down, around this weird little foot. Make it come out. And I'm going to do a little bit of shading underneath, so it doesn't look like it's just floating in the air. Maybe he's in the water. Do a few curvy lines there. So maybe we can kind of see where he's standing, but it's under the water. Some clear water. Like that. I'm going to draw here around this knee, coming down straight. And go for this one. It's got a little bit darkness here coming out from under that wing, and it's going straight. And on this one you can't see the knee because the knee is actually right up under that feather. He's bending at the knee. And this is just the bottom part of his leg. Then I'm going to switch to the lighter pencil. And if you get really into shading, there's all different kinds of pencils. But I usually tend towards the lighter side. Except for today, I've got my ebony. I like an HB is my favorite pencil, which is just like a number 2 pencil. And it's just a good all around, and it's not too dark to erase. So an HB is good, a 2B is good. A 4B is really getting kind of dark. And a 6B is like an ebony almost. But I just don't like it to look too smudgy everywhere. So I'm going back with my HB. Okay, now I might go do a little feather action. Kind of go under each one. And it depends on the flamingo and also what they eat. Sometimes they're really light and sometimes they're dark. Their legs are usually darker than their bodies. And sometimes you see this and sometimes you just don't. Sometimes it's just kind of, most of the body's just kind of light. I think I'm going to lighten that up a little bit. Well, it's starting to shape up. I'll draw these here. I'm gonna make his tail a little crazy. And actually the top of their legs kind of have a little bit of feathers on the top there. So I should have drawn that a little bit lighter. I want a little shadow from the body, but that top part of the leg is really covered in feathers. So that should probably be a little bit of a lighter area. There we go. That looks better. I'm trying to make these look like they're a little more important. And I'm doing my hatches in two different directions. That's called cross hatching. And that just kind of makes it a little more smooth. I'm just going back with my lighter pencil to kind of shore up some edges and give it a little bit of variety. And I don't want to get bogged down too much in the individual feathers and then forget the whole shape of the bird, because I want the bird to look three-dimensional. So I really want it to look like it's got some light area here and some darkness here. By making it darker on these two sides and lighter in the center, I will make it look a little more round. So actually I wish those were a little lighter. And I may make some of these a little darker. And that's just kind of a trick. I mean, no one's going to be standing there looking at this exact flamingo, so they're not going to know if you fudged it a little and made this part a little bit darker in order to make your picture look good. So I'm kind of lighten there. I'm going to erase my background. clean it up a little. Your hand always ends up smudging. Look. Ew. That's why sometimes I get my eraser marks off with a paintbrush. And it keeps it nice and clean. Okay, well, thank you for watching Art Happy with Katie. And I hope you've enjoyed shading your penguin. Subscribe, and we'll see you next time.